Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. Back in the tunnel again this week. We're starting to move into the warmer weather of things, but I wanted to show you a couple of things in the tunnel in today's video. We're going to start working on some stuff on the outside starting next week, meaning the outside garden. And we're right now right around the middle of April, so we still get pretty cold nights. So we can, though, start some things inside the tunnel that I think we couldn't start outside because the soil temperature and nighttime temperatures would kind of preclude it. Let me take you through an example of something I just noticed, which is going to make, I think, starting some early summer squash really easy to do directly seated in the ground. This is a volunteer pumpkin. Now, we had some pumpkins that I chopped up and wanted to use as basically organic feed into the soil. And I tried not to leave any seeds. I was trying to use just the rinds, but a few seeds escaped. And here's one that came up early, which means my soil temperatures are just right. So I'm going to be starting some of this zucchini. We grazed this last year, and it's a nice typical green zucchini. It's a little bit on the I'd say more compact side. So the plant itself, even though it's a hybrid, actually performed pretty well in terms of keeping kind of a nice compact size. So what I'm thinking in this area right in here, it's not super big, but I could easily get 2 hills of zucchini in here, and this will give me some, I think, early zucchinis like near the end of May that we can start using on our salad fixings. These guys over here, if you'll note, I lost a couple of plants to some slugs, unfortunately, but the vast majority of them are really starting to grow pretty well. And the lettuce in particular seems to be doing really well. These guys have just shot up a lot in the last week or two, because they've only been in the ground about 2.5 weeks at this point. And one of the things I think you guys should note here is this isn't an area that has electroculture. In other words, it has the magnetic wire buried in the ground. If you look at, like over here, you can see the stake. That stake is representing the start of one of the grids. The wires, they're buried. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but it's basically taking a galvanized wire like a 14 gauge, actually better than that, about a 9 gauge galvanized wire, and laid out, oriented so that the wire actually moves from north to magnetic south, magnetic north, magnetic south, so it's aligned on those lines. And on the southern end of the wire, we have 6 magnets that are attached to the wire, and that provides that small amount of magnetic electrical current on that wire, which helps stimulate the soil activity. We did some videos last year how we planted beans in this spot, and it actually did pretty well. You can kind of see the other stake there towards the end over there, and then that ends right here at this stake. So these wires on this bed are approximately, if you looked at them, when they overlap, they're approximately 1 meter apart, which is a little over 3 feet. And they're buried down about 10 inches. So it's outside of the cultivation zone, but still within close proximity to the root zone of the plants. And the one thing I did notice is that this lettuce really jumped out pretty fast. Faster than I would have anticipated. Now, my spinach, on the other hand, seems to be, it's like this is supposed to be a smooth leaf spinach, and I'm thinking I've got some kind of disease going on here. And I've been trying to figure out if I've got bugs, and I don't see any on the leaves itself, but I thought maybe it was aphids or something like that, and there isn't anything there. So this may actually be that I have some form of virus or something that's in the plants. So the spinach might actually be kind of a loss. I do have some plants in the beginning over here that are growing normally, but I have a lot of them that aren't. So Don't know what exactly is going on, if there's something in the ground or I had something wrong with the seed itself. So this is our first planting of this year. So what I may try to do is do another planting and just put it in a different area. But the lettuce is doing great. The bunching onions on the outside are doing fine. So overall, this seems to be working pretty good. Wanted to show you one other thing. Now this is kind of an interesting thing. We have 2 batches of peas that we planted here, and I wanted to show you the difference between the ones that are under electroculture. These were growing in electroculture. They were planted in the ground, I guess it was maybe about a month ago, and you can kind of see these guys look really pretty vigorous. And what we did is we put a netting up. I don't know if you can see it too well, but it's attached to the top purlin with zip ties, and then it just comes down, and we anchored it in the ground with ground staples, the kind of same staples you use for like putting fabric cloth down, and that kind of keeps the tension on the net. And the peas, I just put this netting in about 3 days ago, and the peas are already starting to climb up this netting pretty good. And the one thing I guess I find interesting about it is that these peas grown under the electroculture, the leaves are doing the same thing that happened with the beans. We're getting larger than normal leaf size. It's a little bright in here, so the colors don't look super green, but they are pretty green plants. And it seems to be that it's having an effect too on the number of actual I guess you'd call it branching of the peas itself. They seem to be a little more aggressive. Okay, so these are the peas, same thing. We have a netting system set up, and these are the peas that are grown without the electroculture. The leaves are not as big, although the plants look perfectly healthy, and actually we have some early pea blossoms on them, which I kind of find interesting at this size that they'd already start to bloom. They're growing, starting to, climb up the net, and the tendrils on these particular plants seem really robust. They're like more of them than the other peas, so I'm not sure exactly what that means, but in this sense, it seems like they're doing pretty good, but they're definitely about probably 20% smaller at this point. So it's kind of an interesting non-electroculture versus electroculture. Just the last thing to note here on these peas, as we're talking about finishing up the comparison between electroculture and non-electroculture, is that these guys have been fertilized and treated exactly the same way, both classes, so there's no difference there at all. So the last thing we're going to work on today is we're going to harvest some of this last spinach that hasn't been kind of bleached out. We still have some growth on some of the ends here. Then we're going to clean these beds out and put in our German butterball, which should probably fill the length from where our Kennebecs end right here. Notice we finally got these guys mulched. They finally got big enough. We took care of that yesterday, and we actually put a second coat on the Yukon Golds in the Red Norlands. I've got the mulch now where it's around those guys probably about 4 inches thick. So I'm not sure if I'll need to put another coat on. That'll probably take care of it until we get to harvest. I'm hoping, again, they actually grew pretty well. When I put that first coat in, they really shot above the mulch pretty fast. And in some cases, they're still actually substantially above the mulch, but I think I only need about 4 inches, 4 to 5 inches in here, and that should do it. The grass is not matting down from the standpoint like, turning slimy or anything like that, because again, we're watering these guys with, we're using drip tape underneath. And so when you look at down in there, I don't know if I can get in there and see a good shot, but the soil itself, you might see, is nice and damp. It's got a lot of organic material in it, but it's not saturated wet. So that should be perfect for these potatoes to perform really well. So one of the other things, just from a seed saving standpoint, is We are saving our own kale seed this year, and these guys are blooming nicely. Actually, we've got some folks just down the road that are raising a form of a brassica seed crop, and it's blooming in full bloom too. I'm not sure if it's a kale or if it's like a oil radish or something like that. But in this case, you know, we should get enough seed to give us a good crop for the next year. So I've got 3 plants that I left go to seed, and they'll probably be finished and set their seed on by, you know, June, and then I'll just basically, you know, cut the plants out, let the seed dry out, and then should be good for fall. So this is we've been doing this for a couple of times now, and even though this started out as an F1 hybrid, it's still a good kale. We still get good flavor out of it and get good production out of it. So I just been saving the seed. So I'm not sure what you would call it now, but other than good kale. So that's it. Just you know, doing some more things and just trying to get more productivity out of the tunnel. And just give you guys a note here, some of the flowers are actually starting to bloom. We have our delphinium and our dianthus in here are starting to bloom. The anemones are finishing up, and we're going to be saving those plants for this fall, in addition to some new corms we bought in case we lost some due to rot. But we're just going to keep that going. And the same idea with the ranunculus. The ranunculus bloomed really well. And we didn't have any aphid problems or anything like that, so the plants stayed healthy and everything looked great. So anyway, folks, just want to say thanks for watching and be safe. We'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.